Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're setting our sights on Taipei, actually, for something quite special, the recent celebration of the Marshall Islands Constitution Day held there.
Right, and what makes this particular gathering so interesting, I think, is the involvement of Pastor Lumaf.
Exactly. His presence and his participation really seemed to bridge culture and spirituality in a very visible way.
Yeah, it wasn't just him. You had Taiwanese officials, ambassadors, other friends there too. It sounds like there was a real spirit of, exchange.
Absolutely. So, our mission today is really to get into the significance of this event. We want to understand it through that lens of shared South Pacific heritage, cultural exchange, and maybe look at some of the future aspirations that came out of it.
It's quite something when a National Day event becomes a focal point for these bigger connections. Pastor Lumaf, as you said, adds a really unique layer.
He really does. He wasn't just attending, he was invited as a special guest performer.
Okay.
And what he offered was, well, apparently quite powerful. It was an unplugged performance of an ancient Bunun indigenous melody.
Unplugged. Interesting.
Yeah, sung in his mother tongue. And the descriptions say it immediately created this sense of shared ancestral memory, connecting people, to the mountains, the ocean, these origin points. What does that unplugged element suggest to you?
Well, going unplugged, it strips everything back, doesn't it?
Yeah.
It emphasizes the raw emotion, the core message of the melody itself. It's very direct, very authentic. It allows that inherent meaning to really connect.
That makes sense. And the lyrics, too, they carried this really heartfelt message about the connection of South Pacific peoples, despite the distances. There were specific blessings for the Marshall Islands, but also this broader theme of unity, of a shared identity.
Almost like a prayer you mentioned.
Yes, exactly. It was described as having a prayer-like quality, images of divine love and blessings flowing across the islands. It paints a really vivid picture of connection.
And that prayer-like quality, it speaks to something deeper, doesn't it? That spiritual element often woven into the very fabric of island cultures. A shared worldview, perhaps.
It feels like it connects to that mention of Isaiah 49.1. Listen to me, you islands. Hear this, you distant nations. Putting that verse in this context seems deliberate.
It really does. It seems to underscore this idea that island nations, even scattered across the ocean, share some fundamental, maybe spiritual or cultural characteristics.
Like what, for example?
Well, things like a profound respect for nature, a sense of gratitude, maybe a certain humility, values you often see reflected in their traditions.
And you can see how those values might feed into things like sustainable living or even just a joyful way of life that's really rooted in those beliefs.
Definitely. It's a different perspective.
So after this very moving performance, there was another significant moment. Pastor Lumaf presented Ambassador Anjanette Kattil with two handmade indigenous beaded necklaces.
Okay.
And these weren't just, trinkets. They had deep meaning, apparently, woven into the totem patterns on the beads. It struck me as a real act of cultural connection.
Oh, absolutely. That's a perfect example of cultural diplomacy, isn't it? A handcrafted gift like that carries so much more than just its physical form. It carries stories, history, cultural identity.
It's a tangible link.
Precisely. A symbol of the relationship being built, being acknowledged. It speaks volumes.
It really does. And thinking about these islands, it brings up their unique position globally. They might be geographically separate, but they have these diverse roles.
Right. The discussion touches on their strategic importance, international trade hubs, key locations.
And natural resources, too, in and around them.
Yes. And there's this interesting hope expressed alongside that these advantages become blessings for everyone, not just targets for exploitation.
A kind of mutual support idea.
Exactly. It connects to that principle mentioned from 2 Corinthians, doesn't it? About balance.
The one who gathered much did not have too much, and the one who gathered little did not have too little.
Yeah.
Applying that idea of balance to nations and resources.
It's a powerful way to think about it. A vision for how these island nations, with their unique positions and resources, can fit into a more equitable global picture. Interconnectedness, shared strengths, addressing vulnerabilities together.
It's fascinating how, despite all the waters separating them and the unique ways each society developed, there are still these strong cultural threads linking South Pacific peoples.
Oh, definitely. Things like similarities in language. In mythology, they run surprisingly deep across vast distances.
And that shared background, it provides a ready-made foundation, doesn't it? For exchange, for understanding.
It really does. It's like a common language, literally and figuratively, that helps bridge those gaps and opens the door for friendship.
Looking towards the future then, Pastor Lumaf shared a really quite inspiring vision.
Okay.
He talked about wanting to help Taiwanese indigenous Christian youth visit the Marshall Islands and other South Pacific nations too.
Ah, an exchange program idea.
Yeah, exactly. The goal being this mutual sharing culture, faith experiences to really broaden everyone's spiritual horizons and understanding. What kind of impact do you think that could have?
Oh, potentially huge. Those kinds of exchanges, especially for young people, can create incredibly deep bonds. Experiencing another culture directly, sharing faith. It builds empathy, appreciation for diversity. Those connections can last a lifetime.
He summed it up beautifully, actually. He talked about connecting these cultural gems of the South Pacific Islands, like stringing beads on a necklace,
Lovely image.
to weave, as he put it, a beautiful human tapestry. So it's more than just tourism. It's about integrating knowledge, fostering peace, and giving youth meaningful international experience.
That image really works each island a unique gem, but together they create something even more beautiful, more significant. It captures that potential for unity and collaboration perfectly.
So, wrapping up our deep dive today on this Constitution Day event in Taipei, several things really resonate. It was clearly a symbol of connection.
Definitely. Highlighting the power of that cultural expression, the shared heritage.
And Pastor Lumaf's vision for the youth, for the future,
Yeah,
it offers this really hopeful path forward for these South Pacific communities.
it really does.
Mhm.
And reflecting on all this, you can't help but think about the profound interconnectedness of these island cultures.
Yeah.
And maybe, just maybe, it makes you wonder what lessons their shared heritage, their ways of connecting, might hold for all of us, for broader global understanding and cooperation in a world that feels increasingly connected, yet somehow still fractured. Something to think about.